Hey everyone, Matt Damon here, stranded on Mars, still. Now in today's video we're going to go over the advanced furnace, this puppy right here. Now this thing, it blindsided me. I did not expect the need to use it. I was building a spacesuit, or I wanted to build the spacesuit, the one I'm wearing. It's more advanced. In order to do that, you need to use ingots that require more advanced technology to smelt. So that's where the advanced furnace comes in. Now I got to admit, this thing caused me the most fear. That it was the most complicated thing I've ever done in the game, and like I said, I wasn't really prepared for it. But it turns out that it's now my most favorite thing to do. I love operating this machine. So let's talk about why you would need to use this. So in order to build things, you need to smelt minerals natural resources that you dig out of the ground, like say iron ore, okay? Now you can't just throw this into a machine and start building things. First you gotta turn it into an iron ingot, which would be like one of these right here. In order to do that, you can use an arc furnace, which is your basic furnace that comes with you on Mars, or you can use just a normal furnace, or the advanced furnace. Now I have all three. This thing runs on electricity, so it's pretty nice. It doesn't require you to mix gases. The furnace does require you to mix gases, but you can just throw in some oxide ores and some volatile ores and just basically press the activate button, and hopefully you don't blow yourself up. But it's a step-by-step thing. It's a little bit more complicated than the arc furnace over there. And then you have to get to the advanced furnace eventually if you really want to start making more complex ingots. Okay, so the arc furnace, the first furnace, it doesn't mix any metals together. Okay, it just you put in iron ore, it will give you iron ore and ingot. You put in gold, it will give you gold. But let's say you want to make steel. Okay, you'd have to use at least a furnace. You can't use the arc furnace, and you'd have to mix in some iron ore and some hydrocarbon, which you can get from coal. Now, if you want to take it even a step further and build something like, say, the spacesuit I'm wearing, a more advanced spacesuit, you'd have to make one of these octangular hastalloy or hastalloy incarnal, or waspoli. Okay, and it can get pretty difficult to do if you're doing it manually. For example, waspoli has a low temperature setting in order to smelt, but a very high pressure setting, which can be difficult. Okay, which means you have to pump in a lot of cold gas to really pressurize the furnace and then keep the temperature low at the same time, so you can't exactly pressurize it with fuel or you're going to create a big bomb. So you need to use the advanced furnace for that, and you can do it manually. You just increase these valves yourself or decrease them, the intake and the outtake, or output and input, or you can automate it, which is what I did, because there's no way I want to take the time to pressurize this thing manually and keep the heat low. And here's the thing, this is what threw me off guard. To automate this thing, it requires coding. Now up until this point, we've been doing more basic stuff like using these logic readers and writers and processors, and you just plug in your variables manually. All right, it's pretty basic programming or coding, but setting up an automated system like this requires things like integrated circuit boards and housing units for those circuits, and these you actually program using an in-game computer. So it goes back to that Inception thing of using a computer inside of a video game to program part of the video game, but we'll get to that here in a second. First, I want to show you how this baby is set up. Okay, so as you can tell, it's Pipe City back here. A lot of different colored pipes. I did color code them just because it'd be confusing if I didn't. You can throw labels on them, but I didn't bother doing that. So basically how this thing works, this advanced furnace works, is you use two different gases. You use fuel, which I make down in my pump room inside my base, and I just bring out here and pump it into this main container, this main fuel tank. And you also have a cold gas, which I use poison, which is, its symbol is X in this game. Right? Apparently that's the best gas to use for your coolant. And what you do is you pump them both into the back of the furnace here, and then if you automate it, it will adjust how much of each gas it pumps in order to raise the pressure or raise the heat, whatever it needs to do. Okay. And here's the thing. This is how I have this set up. The reason why I have a third tank over here and it looks different than the other two is because these two are insulated and this one is not. And the reason for that is because the first time I tried doing this furnace, it didn't really work. I wanted to recycle my poison gas, my coolant, because when you use your advanced furnace, you could just, you know, vent out all the gases that it uses, or you can recycle the poison gas, the X gas, so you don't have to keep filling up your X gas back here. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that, of course. But the thing is, I didn't have this uninsulated tank. I was just pumping that gas back into my insulated tank. Well, the thing is, I didn't think about it. The gas leaving the furnace is going to be really, really hot. So the first time I used the furnace, it actually worked. But then the second time, by that time, I had a whole bunch of hot, cold gas in my cold tank, and so the furnace, the second time I used it, no problem getting the temperature up. But once it got the pressure where it needed to be, and then it needed to drop the temperature, it couldn't do it. It just couldn't drop the temperature. It struggled, and it finally took me like 20 minutes in to realize that this thing is not going to be able to bring the temperature down. And I realized, oh, it's because my cold gas is at like 1,000 degrees Celsius. So then I had to basically repipe everything, put in this tank, and now, so the way it works is once this thing is running, all the exhaust gas runs out this yellow pipe, and it runs right into this filter. And I have a poison X gas filter set in here, so it will filter all the pollutants. Pollutants is the word, not poison, I guess. Pollutants. The pollutants will run to this blue pipe, which we'll get to here in a second. Everything else is just wasted. It goes through this yellow pipe and just vents out the top. And in order to follow this blue pipe, we need to go down below our furnace station here. And so I built like a little cavern when I was making these adjustments. So there's our blue pipe, and I strapped a bunch of radiators to it to, you know, get some of that heat away from that gas in the pipe. So it runs down here, and it just sits in here. It sits in here, it goes up, back out we go. It goes up and it connects right here with this pipe, okay? And it will rest in this tank that's uninsulated. It'll rest in these pipes that lead to this one-way valve, but it won't go into the insulated pipe yet. It will just sit in these pipes and in this tank, and it will cool off, all right? It will use the Martian atmosphere to cool off that gas. And once it cools off to close to 0 degrees Celsius, then I'll turn on the pump and I'll let it come into our insulated gas tank, so it will stay at a nice cool temperature. Now, since I have it set up this way, I can recycle the pollutant gas, and I don't have to refill this tank yet. In fact, I haven't had to refill it yet. But if I need to, all I do is I throw in some volatile, some pink ore, and I pipe it through here, let it sit here because I have a cutoff valve right here, so it stops right here. I have these two radiators on here. It allows that hot pollutant to cool off. And once it's pretty cool, I can open it back up, let it flow, and that's where it joins up with the excess exhaust gas from our advanced furnace when I use that. And then I can let it cool off some more as it just goes back into that pipe down there I just showed you. But now that we got the piping infrastructure taken care of, the utilities, we'll talk about the electric work. So over here we have a dial that will allow us to switch between the exact ingots we want to smelt. This is an on button, and we have 3 monitors. The first one allows us to choose which ingot we want to smelt. It's not on right now, I guess. Second monitor is just an easier way for us to see what the pressure is. We could just hover over this little gauge here and it will tell us. Right now it's not on, so it's at 0 pascals. And we also have one for our temperature as well. Again, this is all automated, so I don't have to have these things, but it is nice to have it. And full disclosure, I did get this set up from just online from looking at what other people have done, but I did have to make some tweaks here for my particular setup. And again, over here to the circuit housing, you have to dial in each of these little bolts here to the exact variables that you want. But the biggest thing that blindsided me that I wasn't ready for was actually programming these integrated circuits. And in order to do that, I need to take you inside to the computer. So here's our computer over here, and I need to switch out the motherboard because right now I have a communications motherboard in there. For those of you who are locals, you saw what I was using that for, to call in traders. And I'm going to put in an IC editor motherboard. Close that, turn it on. And since this computer is hooked to the same data network as our furnace, I didn't have to bring in like those chips in with me. And those housing units pop up right here. I have 3 of them, even though the furnace only uses 2 of them. The other one is for, I think, the trading. I have it right here in the wall, actually. So we pull this up, and we go to edit, and this is actual coding. Again, this is what threw me a curveball. I was like, I am not prepared for this. But luckily, there's a way for me, even someone like me who doesn't know how to code, never coded before in my life, there was a way for me to make this happen without requiring a semester of coding, even though I know it's not exactly like advanced coding. It's pretty basic. So this game is available on Steam, and if you go to Steam, you can find what other people have coded, and you can subscribe to it, like I have with this guy's. And if you do that, then this code will show up in your in-game computer. So back to edit, we can go to library, and these are the 3 codes that I have imported from Steam. Okay, yeah, these 2 are for the furnace, and this is the writer right here, the guy who wrote the code, the player, I guess. And this is another one that cows are evil. This is the one I found for tracking traders to bring down to the base so I can trade with them. But even though those are the codes we used, they still weren't set up perfectly with what we had set up with the furnace. I did have to go in here and make some edits depending on what I named each part of my furnace. So I did have to do a little bit of coding to my credit. Although I didn't have to write all this, I just had to make some little tweaks. I was still pretty proud of myself being someone that doesn't know anything about coding. I managed to get it to work. So before we go out there and I show you how it's done, let me kind of explain what you need to do before you can do any advanced smelting or any smelting at all, really. First, you need to know what you want to smelt. Now I'm going to smelt some of these advanced alloys that require the advanced furnace. I already have some of these ready to go, some of these quantities of ore ready to go and all set up. But the last one we need to do is stellite. Now I do have some of these already smelted, or I could just get out of my belt here. I got 50 right here in my belt. We can put either one inside the advanced furnace. It will melt it either way. Smelt it. You smelt it, delta either way. All right, so we got our 50 silicon, which means we need 25. What is it? 25 silver and 25 cobalt. What we do is we put this in here. We can split this in half. Boom, we got our 25. Put this back. And silver. We got silver right up here. Now, let me demonstrate this really quick. We could just do what we did with the cobalt, split this in half. Or if I don't have that and I already have all my silver smelted, we could grab it out of here, take it over here to the stacker, which could also be called the D-stacker. Stick it in, make the adjustment to 25, turn it on. Turn it off really quick because we only need one. So there we go. We should have everything we need. Let's go out there. Just in time for daylight. All right. Let me put these panels back on really quick. Okay, now the fun begins. So the first one we're gonna make is we'll just go with the stellite first. It's gonna require kind of low pressure, but pretty hot temperatures. So what we'll do is we'll turn on our arc furnace, or I'm sorry, our advanced furnace. Turn on our monitors. Turn on our circuit housing units. Get in there, you. Silver. All right, we'll come over here to the dial and we'll switch it to Stellite, or whatever you pronounce it. There it is. And all we should have to do is hit the activate button and it should automatically do all the hard work for us. So we're looking for pressure of 10 megapascals. Oh, it just finished. Wow, it finished already. Cool. I was thinking maybe we'd follow along with it, but it got it done. It just spit it out for us. Next thing we're gonna make is, we'll just do the wasp pulley since it's down here. Silver, nickel, and lead. Okay. All have registered. Now we're looking for a very high pressure and very low temperature. So we'll have to raise the pressure and we'll have to drastically lower the temperature. Let's watch this. This should be fun. Set it to waspily or whatever you call it. Past it. Boom. All right. And activate. That's for my suit. No worries. So the problem I was having before I made the changes with the piping was it could raise the pressure, but the cold gas it was pumping in was actually recycled hot gas because that's the temperature of the gas once the exhaust leaves the furnace, and I wasn't cooling it off before I introduced it back into the system. So the temperature wouldn't reduce, it would just keep rising. I guess what I should probably do is turn on our filtration so our pressure doesn't rise too high in the pipes. That way we can keep the recycling going. So we got the pressure where we want it. Now we're just waiting for the furnace to drop the temperature. There she is. Easy as carrots, to quote Forrest Gump. All right, really quick, take a break and let me get some hydration going on. Fuck you, Mars. Might as well eat something too while we're at it. Pumpkins. Okay, next up on the list. Let's go with Inconel. Gold, nickel, steel. Okay. It's registering, processing, and we're good to go. There it is. And we'll go ahead and start. Yes, work. Do my bidding. I command you. Should be low pressure. Moderately low pressure and decently high temperature. It's just waiting for the pressure to drop. It's got the temperature dialed in, and boom. Nice. All right, let's check on our gas levels and temperature so far. Still pushing the exhaust through the filter. Everything should be staying in here because that valve right there is closed. Yep. See how high the temperature is and how much it's increasing. 344 degrees Celsius. Before, like I said already a couple times, I was just pumping that hot gas right back in to the furnace, which was causing it it wasn't able to decrease the temperature of the furnace because I'm an idiot. And once it cools down to as close to 0 degrees Celsius as we can get it, then we'll put it right back into the system. Okay. Next up, I think we only have 1 or 2 more to go. Hast alloy. Yeah, then we'll do astrolo. I keep wanting to say astrology. Astrology. And play. We want relatively high pressure and high temperature. Close it off. Should increase the pressure. These 25 and 30, the pressure is good. There it is. Made it work for it a little bit there. We're looking for pretty high temperatures and relatively high pressure. See how high that gauge got there for a second? This thing's trying to kill me. The AI is taking over. Boom. Nay. We have harnessed it. We have tamed it. In order to shut this thing down, what I like to do is I just like to open up the output, let the pressure drop and the temperature drop. I turn all these off to save energy. Turn these circuit housing units off just to make sure the computer is all the way shut down. And then once these values go to 0, we'll switch off the furnace. We'll wait for all the gases in the exhaust pipe to pass through the filter, and then we'll shut the filter down. We'll just let those hot pollutants in the blue pipes, both here and under the ground, to cool off. And then once they're close to 0 degrees Celsius, we'll pump them back into our insulated cold tank. And this pressure will drop as the temperature cools. How much fuel do we still have? Still have plenty of fuel. Nice. Our fuel is actually colder than our cold gas. It's kind of funny. Showing 0 here, should show 0 here. Yep. So close that. Shut this down, make sure this is closed again. Yeah, it's gonna be a few nights till this is cold enough for us to reintroduce it back into the network. Off. Well, it's good having you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in with me. And until our next one, Godspeed.